windy, but I'll do a third one right now. And I'll comment on the latest news. It's early. But if anything else big comes up before I post it. I mentioned the executions in Arkansas. That Arkansas was on the verge of executing the most people like in one batch in history for Arkansas because they had a drug that expired. I said that, I believe, on the last video. I believe the state Supreme Court has held that they were going to execute 2 men today, and they're holding it. One thing to remember also, I heard the governor, I guess Asa Hutchinson, say the other night, these men went through all their appeals, and maybe they did. There was a case that was overturned. I won't give the whole thing. Appeal after appeal after appeal, the man was continued to be found guilty. One of the rulings on a particular case was beyond all odds because every court. Later on, they found out that the man was not guilty. In fact, it was witnesses in all of the original trial. So just because case after case might have been looked at, you have instances of people that have been gotten off the death row. All right, so that update is the executions. These 2 of them have been halted for right now. What's the other news? This is not to be political, it's just to show us our own biases. When I commented on the Trump campaign, I'm trying to get out of the wind here. When I commented on it before, I said many liberals should be happy because when Trump got in, I said because some of the classic liberal views that Hillary Clinton would not have carried out or expressed, I said you're going to get those from Trump. And I said that because Trump held to some views that were considered, a couple of homeless guys walking in this parking lot. Trump said things that both Republicans and the majority Democrats, because they were behind Hillary, did not like. But if you were a classic liberal or just a union worker, I was in the union for 25 years, International Association of Firefighters, and we all, the majority of those dudes were Democrats, being they support Democrats and all, and some Republicans that are union members were upset over the years because the unions historically support Democrats. But Trump held to some views that were sort of almost a Bernie Sanders type liberal view. And to hold to those views and to actually have gotten elected on a Republican platform is amazing. One of them is this. Trump yesterday or today instructed the Department of Commerce to do an investigation on China flooding American markets with steel and doing it illegally. You know, this is the trade thing. So now he just began to investigate it, and he's doing it smartly because he had promised, one of his promises was he was going to deal with that. See, if China floods the U.S. market with steel and does it in ways that are dishonest, it puts union steel workers out of business. We've had a tremendous problem with factories closing down in the Midwest. And so some union people were for Trump just for that very reason. If you were a steel worker and that was your trade, you would have been for Trump. Hillary Clinton would have never done it and publicly stated she was for the free trade. Now, when Trump, during the campaign, said, no, I'm going to do things like this, then she changed her position a little bit on NAFTA and stuff, but that was all fake because her and her husband, Bill Clinton, were in what's called the DNC, which is a more conservative view of Democrats. And Bill Clinton kind of was more of a conservative Democrat, former governor of Arkansas, and Hillary held to this belief that any restriction, like what Trump is now trying to do with China, meaning put a tariff on imported steel from China because they're doing things illegally. media will now call that protectionism, and the media will say this is destabilizing. Well, if you're a steel worker and you were losing your jobs and found yourself on the street, you'd be happy about this. And this was a promise that Trump made. But now you can have the media, even the liberals in the media, though this is a classic liberal position, criticize him for it. If you're a union steelworker, you'd be happy. One of the other criticisms from liberals to conservatives was the view of what's referred to as trickle-down economics. That's simply a view that if you have a good economy, you lower taxes on corporations and so forth. If you have a good economy, eventually the good economy, it'll trickle down to the lower people. Now, classically, Democrats and liberals criticize that view. I'm not saying I'm for that view or against that view. I'm trying to show us our own bias in things. Classically, Democrats said, if you simply help economies or businesses or corporations, that money doesn't really trickle down. That money goes into the hands of stockholders and bigwigs. Okay, maybe so. But the view that Hillary Clinton held, that let's not be protectionists, let's not do what Trump says he's going to do, because Hillary's view, or some in the DNC's view, was if you simply help the world economy, free trade, NAFTA and all these things, eventually it'll trickle down to the workers. Well, but that's the same view you criticize for years to conservatives and to Republicans. So Hillary embraced trickle-down economics, meaning let's just not put a tariff on steel if it's illegally flooding the U.S. market. But that would help our steel workers. That would help the classic liberals and the Democrats, which the majority of union people are Democrats. But Hillary said no, or some Democrats that had that more conservative view said no, it'll overall trickle down to those union workers. Why do I bring this up? Because if people, regardless of what side they're on, if they were honest and fair, they would say, look at that. Trump is now enacting something that's going to benefit a classic liberal stronghold of support, which are union steelworkers. And the action that he is now taking is going to benefit the American steelworker. Now, I don't care one way or the other. But when these issues that we are unable, whether it's Obama, the critics of Obama could never give him credit. I supported Obama's idea of not going into Syria with a bunch of troops, and I said it at the time. Now, many Democrats and liberals, they supported Obama on everything and were never critical of him. But some of the same liberals, though Trump is doing something right now in what I mentioned, which you should praise him for, many will not. And the media will also go after him now as a protectionist. But that's a classic Bernie Sanders position that he not only stated, which Republicans did not like it when he said he was going to do this, and the Democrats didn't like it, because this was a classic liberal position. Now, just judge the thing for what you see. I don't really care about the tariffs. I mean, I want the steelworkers to do it. But when these things deal with issues that are going to be on the world stage, like issues of war, issues of intervention in other countries, should we think about it? Should we put thousands of troops in Syria, John? No, we should not. We should not put thousands of troops in Syria. Because we tried to do things in Iraq and other countries, and the end result was more destabilization, more death. And when you have death on YouTube videos showing kids that had chemical attacks, of course that moves us all, and it's an atrocity. But when you have them killed by a bomb, or you have them killed because there's engagements that we didn't think through, and maybe you don't see that on YouTube, that's still in the trust. And so what we should do as people in this country is we should not play these sides. None of these things I'm talking about are a defense of Trump. I'm saying we are so caught up in not seeing things for what they are. If you have a problem with anybody, Democrat, Republican, Trump, Obama, try to go behind the issues and say, look, there are important things going on. And I want to make sure, as a Christian, I'm not siding. I'm not jumping on the bandwagon of, yeah, let's go and do it, because these other issues are life and death issues. So this is just one example. Maybe tonight it's about, 1 o'clock? Maybe tonight the media will report how Trump is a protectionist and all. Well, then those Democrats that are going to call him that, they are trickle-down economics. They are the very thing that they were condemning for years. And just to see that, just for us to be able to see that, I'm not an economist, but just to understand that, whatever view you are, whatever view you have, try to have a fair view. Try to look at it in an honest way. Okay, this is number 3. I didn't see, I'm by this lady's caucus of the win. I didn't see the last. These brothers are handing out something. What do you guys got? What is
Jesus.
it?
This is Corpus Christi Restoration Ministry.
Oh, I got a ministry. Let me show it. I'm doing a Christian video. Say hi.
Hey.
You want to share a testimony? Go ahead and share a testimony.
Man, I was
good. I
was born into drug addiction. I was born into the very pits of hell. You know, my mom would tie me up in trash bags. Every time she'd leave the house, I never knew my dad. So from a very young age, I learned how to hate. I learned how to hate people. I learned how to hate life. I learned how to hate myself. At 3.5, I was pulled out from CPS, and they put me into a foster family, me and my baby brother. You know, so even then, I began to hate more and more. And you know, I didn't know the love of God. When I was about 7, I was molested by my cousin. You know, so once again, just more hate, more hate. I ran away into the Marines. I had no sense of patriotism. It was more of just running away and trying to get away, because I blamed everybody else for my problems. I blamed life. I blamed everybody but myself, you know. And in about 2010, I was living on the streets of California, Paso Robles, California. I was shooting up dope for the first time. I've been shooting up for about 6 months. And I finally got so tired of living under a bridge, of being tired, homeless. And I cried out to God. I cried out to the God that my parents taught me to believe in. The God that I didn't believe in. And I said, if you're real like everybody says that you're real, then I need you to show me something. That very same night, I ended up in a trap house shooting up dope for the rest of the night. I walked out in the morning and somebody pulled up beside me, ended up taking me to church, bought me Denny's, and then bought me a bus ticket from California back to Houston, when I told them all I want to do is just go home. I just want to be with my family. Very same day after I prayed to God to show me something. Nobody just out of their, you know, the kindness of their heart, unless they've got Jesus, just buys you a $300 bus ticket. And then from that day, you know, I began to believe in God, and I seen Him work, but it was a 7-year process, in and out, on and off the streets. You know, because God doesn't just deliver you like that. It's a process, you know, because you have to learn to appreciate the things that God gives you. And I'm just now learning to surrender 7 years later, after coming to believe in God, and after fighting like Jonah, running from my calling, you know. But God is an awesome God, and He's the greatest high that I've ever come to know. He's the peace and the joy that wakes me up at night. And I'm not perfect, you know. A Christian life is not about being perfect. It's about just, you know, having that righteous heart like David had. David was an adulterer. He was a murderer, you know. But he knew that it was only by crying out to God and asking for repentance that that's what brought him back to God, you know. And I fall short every day, but, you know, I come back to God and I say, God, please forgive me, you know. And slowly I'm still being delivered from things that have plagued me from the very beginning, you know. But it's a process of deliverance, you know, because I'm learning to appreciate the things that God is doing in my life. That's all I have for y'all.
What is your name?
My name is Joshua.
I I just did a whole teaching on Samuel and Kings. It covers the story of David. But David, and so I covered a lot of the story of David and Bathsheba, and of course he has Solomon. That was a messed up situation. He took the wife, had the husband killed, Uriah, but then he has Solomon. And I'm now doing 2 Kings. You'll find it on my website. I gave the brother. But David wrote a psalm. I think it's Psalms 51, but that's the repentance psalm after he screwed up. He said, create in me a clean heart, O God, and renew a right spirit within me. And so that was like David's brokenness. I work, the friends that are going to watch this today, I'll upload these on my little sites, but there's so many testimonies. I work with a lot of homeless guys in Corpus Christi. Many of them on the streets. I was with them just the other day. Many of them are using, some are getting clothes. But one of my friends, David Martin, one of the old crew, his testimony, you reminded me of it. He was using meth for about 7 years. He lost everything. He was very successful, had a lot of stuff going on. And one day he walked down by the water where we live in Corpus, and he cursed God. He said, if you're effing real, do something. And the next day, 2 guys picked him up, took him out to eat. And he thought these guys might be gay, and then they hit on me. So he's sitting with him, not at a dance, but like a story. They said, no, we're gay. But what they did, they said, they even got a bus ticket for him. But he is a Christian, he's clean now. But it was people that reached out and said, we're just doing this because it's our call, it's our mission. And so that reminded me of when you were telling me this. What is your name, brother?
Royal.
Royal.
Mine's actually kind of like that. I was out here homeless, in and out of the hotels on Staples and Leopard. Then I was over at Ayers. Then I just kept moving around with a bunch of people that I hung out with. My crew, my family, I called them out there. But I decided I had to be a father again and a role model for my wife to get back with her. And I used to be out here on the heroin, meth, just anything that would get me nodded out or anything that would get me out of reality. And now I'm a lot healthier again, back in the gym, back in going to the boxing gym, going to testimonies. I'm coming out here fundraising, coming out here and just spreading the word of God and telling people my testimony.
I was walking Agnes and Laredo Street last week, and I ran into, I don't know if you know Chiba. It's not heroin, but it's the name of one of the street guys. He was walking down Laredo. I was making a video.
Did you get tattooed on it?
Yes.
Yes, sir, I do. I ran with him.
Yes. I was going to say, I thought maybe you know him. But I ran into him. I was teaching on Solomon, and then I had him talk a little bit on the video. But that's good, brothers.
I'm glad y'all here doing that.
Yes, I do. You can check out the website, and you'll see videos tonight on the website.
Right, yes, sir.
How are you doing?
Good.
I was doing a little teaching video. I do a ministry. Then I ran into these brothers, and I let them share their testimony.
Cool.
I thought it would be good. I know a lot of Bluff guys. Me and my friend David that I was telling you about, we started a halfway house downtown Corpus. It was right off of King Street, of course, across from, that ministry for the ladies, something house, I forget.
Alabaster, Alcar de Radio.
I know that. I used to actually work with Victor Outreach. No, the other one for the lady, Wenholz house. Lady Wenholz.
Yes, okay.
Well, we rented a little fourplex across the street. And we did a little halfway house, me and my friend, and we had guys that came in and stayed, so that whole area is a spot where you kind of know that the neighborhood you were talking about, that's the spots that kind of I was doing some ministry there. So it's good, brothers. I'm glad for running. I got to go into Walmart. God bless you. Let me pray at the end. Father, I thank you for letting me run into these brothers. I pray you bless them, God. Anoint them, use them, let them spread the word of God. And just bless these guys. We ask it in Jesus' name.
Amen. You have a blessed day, sir.
You too, guys.